Are your deepest convictions truly yours, or whispers from a mind unseen, a current in the stream? We live adrift on tides profound, where hidden wills convene. Illusions cloak the architects, who sculpt our thoughts with art. What if the self you think you know is but a mirrored part, a fragment in a grand design, by spectral powers arrayed, a dance of light and shadow in this grand masquerade? Tonight, we pierce this subtle weave. We dare to name the force that binds, the egregor, a term from shadowed ancient lore, yet pulsing through the veins of our modern age, its ancient power raw and evermore. More than mere belief, far more than just a crowd. It is a being spun from human soul and mind, a psychic entity that thrives on passion loud, and often seeks to subtly guide or even bind. It is the hidden engine driving empires, the silent, fervent hymn of cults new and old. It's the very ghost within the intricate machine of our collective results, a story to be told. Born of desire, of focused dread, of unity's embrace, or schisms rending art. It takes its potent form from our deep human need, a lodestone for the wandering, seeking heart. With every ritual meticulously observed, each sacred symbol held so cherished and dear, each oft-repeated word, each solemn vow or binding creed that conquers rising doubt and stills the nascent fear. This thought form drinks our psychic dew. It coalesces, strengthens, grows from whispered hope or elemental burning rage. A spectral, mighty current subtly flows, turning a new and often fateful page. Its unseen tendrils reach from quiet hearth and cherished home, where subtle family spirits gently, softly dwell, to the colossal thrumming, often warlike heart of nations, firmly bound by history's potent, magic spell. It is the brand that captures fealty, the burning ideology's fierce fire, the unseen hand that often guides the frenzied mob to act on base, unreasoned, dark desire. It can be a beacon burning bright for noble, selfless quest, or yet a chain of shadowed gold for those who dare not stray. Understanding this unseen, potent dance is the first crucial step to light your onward way. For what you consciously choose to feed with focused mind will surely, strongly grow in kind, while that which you ignore or fail to see may subtly come to bind your destiny. The egregor awaits your steady, knowing gaze, just beyond illusions, captivating, shimmering haze. To see it clearly is to start to break its often hypnotic, binding phase. But how precisely is such an ethereal, yet profoundly impactful entity birthed from the fertile soil of our collective human psyche? It is seldom an instantaneous conjuring, more often a gradual, organic coalescence over time, or at times a meticulously, consciously engineered construction, a psychic edifice built with specific intent. As we've touched upon, it begins with that shared idea, that potent vision, that fervent, unifying hope, that common, binding fear, or that powerfully united, unwavering intention. This is the initial psychic seed, the conceptual nucleus, a point of focus in the imaginal realm. Around this vital nucleus, subtle energies must then begin to gather, and the most crucial sustenance, the very lifeblood that animates and empowers any burgeoning egregor, is undoubtedly emotional resonance. Imagine shared, intense emotion, be it the unifying, unconditional love that so often fuels a truly spiritual community. The fervent, unshakable devotion to a noble and transformative cause. The collective, paralyzing terror in the face of a perceived existential, overwhelming threat, or even the intoxicating, almost desperate hope for a promised, golden, utopian future. This raw emotional current serves as the high-octane psychic fuel, potent and transformative. The stronger, the more keenly focused, and the more widely shared this resonant emotional charge becomes among the group, the more rapidly and the more powerfully the egregor begins to take substantial form. It starts to gain a discernible substance in those subtle, unseen realms that interpenetrate our own physical world. Its influence grows, its capacity to subtly shape the perceptions and actions of its adherents, and even those outside the immediate group who are sensitive to its particular vibration begins to increase, sometimes exponentially. A mere whisper of shared feeling, when magnified by many hearts beating as one, can become a psychic roar, a thundering wave that echoes forcefully through the collective consciousness, altering landscapes of thought. Then comes the subtle, yet almost magical, and deeply transformative power of repetition and of ritual. And here, we must understand ritual in its broadest, most encompassing, and often most mundane sense. This isn't solely about elaborate ceremonial magic performed in ornate temples by robed and hooded orders, though that is indeed one very ancient, highly sophisticated, and deliberately potent form of egregor construction, invocation, and focused maintenance. These are the grand symphonies of collective will. Think also, with keen discernment, of the seemingly ordinary, often unexamined daily rituals that bind us together and subtly shape our shared consciousness. The morning pledge of allegiance before a national symbol, the corporate mission statement recited with feigned or genuine enthusiasm at the start of a working week. Consider the team-building exercises meticulously designed to foster unwavering corporate loyalty and a sense of unified identity. Reflect on the shared chants and emotionally charged slogans that can electrify a political rally, a protest march, or a fervent sporting event, forging a temporary, yet powerful, collective mind. Even the recurring narratives, the carefully selected stories and images relentlessly amplified by mainstream or alternative media, play their part. Or consider the often addictive, algorithmically driven, repetitive cycle of scrolling through specific online forums and curated social media feeds. These create powerful echo chambers, meticulously reinforcing particular viewpoints and emotional states, subtly shaping the consensus reality of their participants, often without their conscious, critical awareness. Each repetition, whether grand and ceremonial or deceptively trivial and mundane, serves to reinforce the egregor's underlying energetic pattern, its core identity. These repeated actions and affirmations create and progressively deepen psychic grooves, both within the individual mind and across the broader collective consciousness of the group. They work insidiously to entrain awareness, subtly aligning the thoughts, the feelings, and eventually the behaviors of participants. They build a powerful sympathetic resonance with the egregor's central vibration, its unique and defining energetic signature, making its influence feel natural, inevitable, even desired. Sacred words from ancient scriptures, powerful names of deities or guiding spirits, resonant mantras chanted with focused collective intent, when uttered with genuine conviction and shared purpose. These become far more than mere articulated sounds. They transform into profoundly potent invocations, sonic keys that unlock and direct psychic energy. They actively charge the burgeoning thought form, etching its intricate symbolic pattern ever more deeply and indelibly into the subtle fabric of perceived reality, thereby making it more readily accessible, more immediately influential, and ultimately, more powerfully binding to those attuned to its call. And what of symbols in this grand, often unseen, architecture of collective thought and concentrated psychic energy? The striking flag, that can instantly bring a tear of fervent pride to a soldier's eye. The ancient crucifix that inspires profound awe and deep reverence in a devout believer. The ubiquitous corporate logo recognized in a flash of perception across the entire globe. Even the deceptively simple viral meme that manages somehow to encapsulate a complex, nuanced idea or a powerful, shared emotion in a single, instantly shareable image. In the subtle, energetic world of egregores, these symbols are vastly more than just passive, inert representations or mere mnemonic devices. They become immensely powerful psychic anchors, truly potent talismans for the collective human mind. They serve as the clearly defined, instantly recognizable focal points upon which group consciousness instinctively, almost magnetically, converges. They function as psychic batteries, esoteric accumulators, where the egregores carefully cultivated and gathered energy is effectively stored, highly concentrated, and then made readily available to those attuned to its specific frequency and meaning. A symbol, when charged with enough collective belief and sustained emotional investment over time, can indeed become a kind of living conduit, a resonant gateway. More than just static reservoirs of accumulated psychic energy, a sufficiently charged and widely recognized symbol can begin to function as a dynamic, interactive, two-way portal. It becomes a readily accessible conduit through which individual members of the group can consciously, or often entirely unconsciously, connect to and draw upon the egregores' accumulated collective power. They tap into its specific qualities, its defining characteristics, its deeply resonant energetic field. And, just as crucially, in turn, that same symbol acts as an effective channel through which the egregores' subtle, or sometimes not so subtle, influence can seamlessly flow back to its devoted adherents. This feedback mechanism subtly shapes their ongoing thoughts. It gently guides their arising emotions, and it consistently reinforces their perceptions, all in precise alignment with the egregores' core pattern, its foundational ideology, or its ultimate, often unstated, objectives. This is precisely why the battle for symbols, the fierce control of narrative imagery and sacred representations, is so often so fiercely and relentlessly contested in cultural, political, and even deeply spiritual arenas across history. It is, at its very heart, an esoteric battle for the conscious and unconscious direction of immense psychic energy, and therefore for influence over the human mind itself. Esoteric traditions from across the ages and from diverse cultures strongly suggest that as an egregore is consistently and fervently fed with this highly focused thought, as it is amplified by the intense, almost alchemical fire of deeply shared emotion, and as it is solidly anchored by these potent, resonant symbols and meticulously repeated, often sacred rituals, it eventually reaches a certain critical energetic threshold, a point of psychic saturation. At this pivotal, transformative point, the egregore can begin to exhibit a startling, almost eerie and uncanny degree of functional autonomy. It can appear to develop its own discernible momentum, a kind of emergent will to survive, and often a subtle yet persistent drive to expand its sphere of influence and grow its foundational energetic base. It does this by subtly influencing its original human creators and its ongoing devoted adherents to think, feel, and act in ways that will ensure its continued sustenance, its protection, and its further dominion. A dynamic, often entirely unacknowledged, yet profoundly powerful feedback loop is thereby firmly established. The very creation, this being of collective thought and emotion, begins to actively shape and subtly direct its creators, often reinforcing the very beliefs and behaviors that gave it birth. ensuring its own perpetuation in a self-sustaining psychic circuit. It seeks what feeds it, and guides its feeders to provide. Consider once more, with a mind open to deeper possibilities, the ancient world, not with an air of modern, often arrogant, dismissive superiority, but with a profoundly curious, respectful, and receptive spirit. Its rich and varied tapestries of deeply held spiritual belief, its vibrant and complex pantheons populated by myriad gods and goddesses, its revered and often deeply feared tutelary deities, the genius loci, or the very palpable, almost sentient spirit that was widely believed inhabit and diligently protect a particular sacred place, a thriving city, even an individual household. Were these truly just fanciful, primitive superstitions born of unenlightened, pre-scientific minds, as conventional history might suggest? Or is it not more probable, more resonant with a deeper understanding of consciousness itself, that our ancestors, in their own profound, intuitive, and often highly sophisticated ways, were acutely aware of, and indeed, actively, deliberately engaging with, the tangible, impactful reality of egregores, even if they used different names, different mythologies to describe these powerful, unseen forces? They didn't just passively believe in these powerful collective entities. In many instances, they meticulously, consciously cultivated them. They understood, perhaps through generations of shamanic insight or priestly observation, that these forces required sustenance, so they fed them with precisely timed offerings, with grand public festivals that renewed collective fervor, with heartfelt prayers and carefully constructed invocations, and with unwavering demonstrations of communal loyalty, profound devotion, and sometimes ultimate sacrifice. Think again of the genius Orbis Rami, the revered protective spirit believed by Romans to embody not just the city's physical form, but its very soul, its imperial destiny, its indomitable, guiding essence. Consider the fierce, often demanding tribal gods of ancient Celtic warriors, entities invoked with raw, untamed fervor before the life-and-death crucible of battle, their perceived presence a palpable, empowering, or at times terrifying force on the blood-soaked field. These were not seen as abstract, distant theological concepts. They were widely understood and directly experienced as living, breathing forces, their own destinies and moods inextricably intermingled with the unfolding fate and collective fortune of the people they both represented and diligently protected. The perceived power and tangible influence of such a culturally embedded egregore was often seen as directly proportional to the intensity of the collective belief, the purity of the focused energetic investment, and the consistency of the ritualistic devotion offered to it by the community it both defined and, in turn, was defined by. A city, in this ancient, resonant understanding, was far more than its physical stones, its bustling marketplaces, and its mortal, transient citizens. It was its indwelling spirit, its unique, enduring, and character-defining egregore, a living, breathing testament to shared foundational will, potent collective memory, and intensely focused, often generationally inherited, aspiration. This was a partnership, a sacred pact between the seen and the unseen, between a people and their psychic soul, and perhaps even the most enduring, globally recognized gods and demons that populate our vast human mythologies, those powerful, often paradoxical archetypes that stalk the corridors of our collective unconscious, that resonate with such profound, unshakable power across disparate cultures and throughout the long, winding march of eons, are themselves amongst the most ancient, the most formidable, and the most deeply embedded egregores ever conceived. They are true titans of thought, sculpted from the ether. These entities were sculpted over uncounted millennia by the fiercely concentrated awe, the most profound terror, the most fervent devotion, and the deepest, most archetypal dreams of countless human souls. Their epic stories, their sacred and often multifaceted symbols, their very names vibrating with accumulated power, are not mere allegorical tales or quaint, dismissible folklore. No, they are profoundly potent, energetic imprints, vital patterns, still very much alive and active within the psychic architecture of present-day humanity. They are still subtly guiding the vast undercurrents of human experience, constantly shaping our perceptions of good and evil, heroism and villainy, ultimate creation and utter destruction. They live on because we, whether consciously acknowledging it or not, have through uncounted generations given them form, given them life, and often continue to feed them with our focused attention, our potent emotional energy, and our deep, resonant belief in the archetypal, timeless truths they represent. But make no mistake, egregores are not merely dusty relics, confined to the fading mists of antiquity or the grand, symbolic theater of ancient, half-forgotten myth. They are vibrantly alive, and arguably more deliberately constructed, more technologically amplified, and more insidiously potent than ever before in our relentlessly hyper-connected, information-saturated, and often bewildering modern world. Consider first the colossal, often fiercely defended and passionately invoked egregores of nations. These immense psychic structures are built painstakingly, generation by generation, brick by collective psychic brick, upon carefully curated foundations of shared and sometimes strategically selective or conveniently reinterpreted history. They are reinforced by common language, by deeply ingrained cultural narratives passed down through education and media, by instantly recognizable iconic symbols such as flags and anthems, and by the powerful, emotionally charged collective memory of both glorious triumphs and profound, uniting sacrifices. A national anthem, when sung with genuine, heartfelt fervor by tens of thousands, or even millions, of citizens, is far more than just a sequence of familiar musical notes and patriotic words. It becomes a powerful, resonant invocation, a mass ritual that actively recharges that nation's unique egregore. It stirs its symbolic power deep within the hearts of its people, reinforcing identity, loyalty, and a sense of shared destiny. This invisible yet palpable force can unite millions for a common, noble cause, or, tragically, it can be manipulated, its energy diverted, to drive them headlong into devastating, fratricidal, and often entirely senseless conflict. Then, turn your discerning gaze to the intricate, often fiercely competitive, and increasingly globalized world of modern commerce and pervasive branding. Major corporations, particularly the colossal multinational entities that span the globe, armed with their sophisticated marketing divisions, their deep understanding of consumer psychology, and their vast advertising budgets, are arguably some O'Fallon the most deliberate and undeniably skilled weavers of powerful egregores in our contemporary society. Their logos, meticulously designed and relentlessly promoted, become universally recognized, almost sacred sigils. Their catchy slogans evolve into modern-day commercial mantras, repeated ad nauseum until they lodge themselves deep within the public consciousness. Their jingles become hypnotic, earworm incantations. The meticulously crafted company culture, often demanding near-religious adherence to its stated values, its mission, and its charismatic leadership. All of this is carefully engineered to create a powerful, alluring, and ultimately profitable thought form. The goal is an egregore, that not only ensures unwavering consumer desire and deeply ingrained brand loyalty, but also profoundly shapes the very identity, the daily behavior, and even the future aspirations of its employees, making them feel part of something larger, something meaningful, something almost tribal. You don't just purchase a product or a service. You integrate a carefully curated piece of that egregor's projected identity, its subtle promise of status, belonging, innovation, or happiness, into the very fabric of your own perceived self. It's a subtle, yet profoundly pervasive, form of psychic influence, seamlessly woven into the tapestry of our consumer-driven daily lives, often operating just below the threshold of our critical awareness. And what of the potent egregores birthed by passionate, often polarizing political ideologies that demand unwavering faith and loyalty? Or those generated by fervent social movements that surge with tidal waves of collective passion and righteous anger? Consider even the vast, often highly volatile and emotionally charged online communities and digital subcultures that can coalesce with astonishing speed and intensity around shared niche interests, specific grievances, or compelling charismatic figures. Each of these, when fueled by passionate, often unshakable belief, constant digital interaction, and intensely focused collective attention, can rapidly birth a formidable, sometimes fiercely exclusionary, egregore. It might begin with a simple, resonant hashtag that captures a sentiment, a viral meme that cleverly encapsulates a complex issue, a shared, deeply felt sense of injustice, or a burning, collective aspiration for radical change. But given enough sustained energetic input, particularly within the algorithmically curated echo chambers and self-reinforcing filter bubbles of many online spaces, this nascent thought form swiftly solidifies. It develops its own distinct momentum, its own perceived will and moral authority, sometimes leading its very creators and most fervent adherents down unforeseen, even radicalized paths, for better or for profoundly worse. The digital age, with its capacity for instant global communication, its algorithmic amplification of emotional content, and its power for rapid, widespread mobilization, has become an unprecedentedly powerful and often dangerously unregulated incubator for these new, rapidly forming, and often fiercely influential, sometimes deeply concerning, egregores that shape our modern world. Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand this point, and this is no mere hyperbole but a vital axis of discernment upon which true understanding pivots, egregores, as these intricate psychic constructs are not inherently, in their fundamental essence, benevolent or malevolent. They are, in their purest form, sophisticated psychic tools, dynamic concentrations of focused collective energy. And, like any tool, from the simplest artisan's hammer to the most complex and world-altering technology, their ultimate impact, their ethical valence, their contribution to upliftment or devastation depends entirely, and often terrifyingly, upon the clarity of the underlying intention, the guiding wisdom or the profound and consequential lack thereof of those who consciously wield them, and, just as importantly, of those vast numbers who often unconsciously, uncritically, feed them with their daily belief and precious emotional energy. A consciously and lovingly cultivated egregore, one that is truly and consistently built upon foundational principles of unconditional compassion, selfless, dedicated service, rigorous intellectual honesty, and a shared, genuine aspiration for collective spiritual growth and human betterment, can indeed become a source of immense and tangible good in our world. It can foster vibrant, deeply supportive communities that actively nurture individual potential and celebrate diversity within unity. It can inspire breathtaking artistic creation birthing new cultural paradigms that elevate the human spirit. It can drive meaningful, lasting social progress and tirelessly champion the often difficult cause of justice and equality. Such an egregore can offer a genuine sense of profound, heartfelt belonging, a palpable mantle of spiritual protection, and an ennobling, elevated sense of shared purpose to its members. Think of a spiritual fellowship, a dedicated charitable organization, or even a scientific research group, truly and selflessly united by pure altruism and a genuine, unwavering desire for collective enlightenment or the tangible betterment of all humanity. Its consciously tended egregore can become a luminous, resonant beacon of peace, a wellspring of healing, a source of profound inspiration, and a tangible field of elevated consciousness in an often troubled, discordant, and fragmented world. That, by any measure, is a truly sacred, life-affirming, and precious construct. But herein, always, lies the ever-present shadow side, the perilous razor's edge upon which all collective endeavors must carefully tread. An egregore, particularly one that is unfortunately born from, or later becomes corrupted by, potent and unprocessed negative emotions like pervasive fear, unbridled primal hatred, insatiable material greed, or the chilling certainty of blind, unquestioning dogma, can rapidly and tragically devolve. It can transform into a monstrous, often parasitic entity, feeding on the very life force of those it claims to serve or represent. Such a darkened egregore can, and often does, demand absolute, unthinking conformity from its adherents. It can viciously suppress authentic individuality, independent critical thought, and any form of internal dissent, branding them as betrayal or heresy. It can amplify negativity within the group to a fever pitch, creating a toxic psychic environment. And it can, inexorably, almost hypnotically, drive its devoted followers to acts of shocking fanaticism, to embrace profound division, and to commit acts of unspeakable cruelty, all in the name of its supposed higher cause. History, alas, is tragically littered with the smoking, blood-stained wreckage wrought by such darkened, expertly weaponized thought forms. From the collective paranoia that fueled the brutal witch hunts and the merciless inquisitions of ages past, to the chilling ideological fervor that continues to ignite devastating wars and heart-wrenching genocides in our own time. These are egregores twisted into horrifying instruments of mass devastation and psychic enslavement. And this unavoidable reality of the egregore's shadow potential leads us directly, inevitably, to a chilling, yet absolutely vital consideration, a theme that resonates deeply with the core explorations here on Veil of the Unknown, the sobering potential for conscious, deliberate, and often highly sophisticated manipulation. Is it merely conceivable, or is it historically demonstrable, that certain individuals, or highly organized, often secretive groups throughout history, and even more so in our hyper-mediated present day, possessing a deeper, perhaps even an initiated understanding of these esoteric psycho-spiritual dynamics, might intentionally strive to create, to hijack, to corrupt, or to covertly steer existing egregores for their own clandestine, self-serving ends. Consider the immense power of meticulously crafted propaganda, the sustained control of dominant narratives through mass media and educational systems. Think of the strategic, often psychologically weaponized use of emotionally charged symbolism in political campaigns or advertising. Reflect on the subtle or overt employment of mass, quasi-ritualistic events, from enormous political rallies and nationalistic parades to globally televised sporting spectacles or even highly orchestrated entertainment awards, to cultivate specific collective thought forms. to generate particular emotional climates that precisely serve hidden agendas of social control, financial profit, or the consolidation and maintenance of political power. This is not mere fantasy. The no BS truth, uncomfortable as it may be for some to confront, is that a functional understanding of the deep mechanics of egregores inherently means understanding a fundamental, and often covertly wielded, tool of profound mass influence. It is the art of shaping not just individual opinions, but the very psychic atmosphere in which those opinions are formed and take root. It is the science of invisible governance, of steering the collective will, often without its explicit consent, or even its conscious awareness. Therefore, when you witness a population, or a significant segment thereof, seemingly inexplicably swayed by a simplistic yet intensely emotionally charged narrative that defies logic or verifiable fact, when you observe a sudden, almost contagious surge of powerful collective emotion, be it fear, outrage, or fervent adoration, sweeping through society with bewildering speed, or when you see an unquestioning, almost fervent, dogmatic adherence to a particular ideology despite glaring, contradictory evidence or demonstrable negative consequences, it is not only wise, it is imperative to ask with unflinching clarity, what unseen egregore is being meticulously fed, deliberately amplified, and strategically directed here? Who truly benefits from its burgeoning strength, its expanding influence, its hypnotic hold on the collective mind? And are the powerful, often seductive currents it generates genuinely carrying us, as individuals and as a society, towards authentic liberation, towards greater wisdom and compassion, and towards sustainable, equitable progress? Or are we, perhaps without realizing it, being subtly, expertly guided ever deeper into an elegant, technologically sophisticated, and psychologically reinforced, gilded cage of thought? A comfortable prison designed by unseen architects of consensus, a reality crafted to serve interests that may not be our own. The answers are rarely simple, but the courage to ask the questions is the first essential step towards true psychic freedom and reclaiming our cognitive sovereignty. So, how do we, as discerning, self-aware individuals, hope to navigate this often treacherous, unseen ocean of powerful collective thought forms? How do we avoid becoming mere flotsam and jetsam on their often turbulent currents? The first crucial step, the very foundation upon which any genuine autonomy is built, as with all profound esoteric truths, is the unwavering cultivation of awareness. This is not a passive state, but an active, engaged, and ongoing practice of keen observation. Learn to meticulously recognize the subtle, yet undeniable, telltale signs of an egregore's pervasive pull. Notice that sudden, overwhelming, and sometimes entirely inappropriate surge of emotion you might feel inexplicably wash over you when you enter a crowd, a specific environment, or when engaging with certain types of highly charged media. Observe in yourself and others the almost reflexive, uncritical acceptance of a widely promoted group narrative, especially when it's imbued with intense feeling or moral righteousness. Feel for that subtle, yet often remarkably insistent, pressure to conform to the group's unspoken rules, to adopt its prevailing opinions, to silence your own questioning doubts, your own unique perspectives, often for the simple, seductive, and deeply human comfort of belonging, of being accepted, of not making waves. These are frequently the first insidious whispers, the almost imperceptible tendrils of an egregore's influence, gently but firmly nudging your consciousness into alignment with its dominant energetic pattern. True, unyielding discernment in this often bewildering context then becomes your most vital shield and your most precise, effective sword. It demands immense inner courage, the unwavering courage to rigorously question not only popular opinion, but also the cherished beliefs of groups you identify with. The courage to stand apart, if your inner truth so dictates, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. And most importantly, the profound courage to fiercely, vigilantly guard the sacred sovereignty of your own precious mental and emotional space, treating it as an inner sanctum. This is not a call for paranoid isolation, for building impenetrable psychic walls that shut out the world and genuine connection. Far from it. Rather, it is an invitation to conscious, deliberate, and informed choice. It is about asking, with radical honesty and clarity, which collective energies, which overarching narratives, which specific group minds do I choose to actively feed with my irreplaceable attention, with my considered belief, with my potent emotional investment? And, just as critically, which of these unseen forces do I consciously, willingly allow to feed me, to shape my worldview, to influence my path? The distinction is paramount. Cultivating deep, unwavering inner stillness through disciplined practices like meditation, consistent mindfulness throughout your day, or even regular, quiet contemplation in the sanctuary of nature, becomes absolutely paramount in this endeavor. Grounding your own personal energy, truly feeling your unshakable connection to the earth beneath your feet, to the simple, profound reality of your own physical being, acts as a powerful, stabilizing anchor against overwhelming or manipulative psychic tides. These practices build your inner citadel, strengthening your individual, innate capacity for sharp, critical thinking, for rigorously questioning deeply ingrained assumptions, both your own and society's, for actively seeking out diverse, challenging perspectives, rather than complacently retreating into the comfortable, self-affirming echo chambers of like-minded agreement. These become your most potent intellectual defenses. They are the whetstones upon which you sharpen the blade of your discernment, allowing you to cut through illusion and perceive underlying realities. For it is only in that quiet, fiercely protected, centered, and discerning space within your own sovereign being that you can begin to clearly and consistently distinguish your own authentic truth, your soul's unique resonant signal, from the often deafening, distracting, and deliberately manipulative clamor of the crowd. You learn to separate your genuine, intuitive insights from the pervasive, often skillfully manufactured, noise of the many external voices and egregores vying for your unquestioning allegiance, your energy, and ultimately, your will. This hard-won clarity is the very bedrock of true psychic freedom and self-determination. This ongoing, dedicated inner work, this unwavering commitment to profound self-awareness and rigorous mental discipline, is not a small or trivial matter when one is consciously dealing with subtle yet powerful forces like egregores, because the insidious power an egregore often holds over an individual is typically directly proportional to that individual's unconscious, unexamined, and reflexive identification with it. It feeds on autopilot agreement. The very moment you consciously break that reflexive identification, the moment you reclaim your individual, critical awareness and deliberately, intentionally choose your response, rather than simply reacting, its previously invisible strings, its subtle psychic tethers, begin to loosen their often constricting grip upon your consciousness. This is a moment of profound liberation. You then begin to move from being a perhaps entirely unwitting puppet of the prevailing collective current, often swept along by powerful tides of popular opinion and contagious emotion that you don't fully understand or consciously consent to, towards becoming a truly conscious, increasingly skilled navigator of the vast and often turbulent psychic seas of human existence. You learn to accurately recognize the prevailing winds, to keenly read the subtle yet powerful underlying currents, and then to choose, with growing wisdom and focused intent, which of those myriad winds you will decisively set your own sails by, courageously charting your own unique, authentic course towards your consciously chosen, soul-aligned horizon. But our journey into understanding egregores, this intricate dance with collective consciousness, is not solely, or even primarily, about defense, about shielding ourselves from unwelcome or manipulative unseen influences. The deeper, more empowering question inevitably arises: can we, with deliberate, conscious, and ethical intent, not only interact with existing egregores, but perhaps even actively participate in the co-creation of new ones? Can we consciously build thought forms that actively serve a higher purpose, that uplift, inspire, and genuinely empower not just ourselves, but the wider collective? Imagine, for instance, dedicated groups of individuals, their hearts, minds, and deepest intentions truly and selflessly aligned for universally beneficial goals, such as fostering global peace, promoting environmental healing and restoration, or facilitating authentic spiritual awakening and the expansion of human consciousness. Their sustained, shared, focused intent, their collective compassion, their unwavering belief in a better world can indeed coalesce. They can build luminous, resonant thought forms, potent beacons of hope, profound understanding, and tangible positive change within the often fraught and shadowed psychic landscape of humanity. This is the art of conscious cultural alchemy. This, however, is precisely where profound, even daunting, responsibility enters the intricate script of our human drama. To knowingly and deliberately participate in the birthing or substantial feeding of an egregore is to choose to wield a creative force of immense, far-reaching, and often unpredictable potential. The subtle yet powerful currents of collective psychic energy, once set in motion, can be formidable indeed, taking on trajectories that may diverge from the original vision if not guided with constant, unwavering wisdom. Even with the noblest and most purely articulated initial intentions, without unceasing vigilance from all participants, without genuine humility that guards against spiritual pride or exclusivity, and without an open, compassionate heart that continually resists the insidious creep of dogma or the allure of power, what begins as a vibrant force for genuine, unadulterated good can slowly, almost imperceptibly, calcify. It can become rigid, its initial bright, vibrant spirit lost or distorted, its outward form gradually evolving into just another beautifully adorned, yet ultimately restrictive, cage for the human mind and spirit. The sacred path of conscious, collective creation demands not only unwavering focus and clarity of intent, but also profound, ongoing ethical self-reflection and immense wisdom. And just as these remarkable entities are intricately born of our collective psychic energy and meticulously shaped by our sustained, focused attention and belief, egregores can also fade. They can diminish in power and influence, lose their coherence and definition, and even, over time, completely dissolve back into the undifferentiated psychic ether from which they arose, deprived of the vital, animating fuel of consistent human attention, drained of the unwavering, energetic belief that sustains their very existence. Their unique vibrational signature weakens, their structure becomes unstable. Even the most seemingly formidable and historically ancient thought forms, those egregores that have shaped civilizations and haunted the dreams of generations, can ultimately wither and lose their tenacious hold upon the collective psyche when humanity, consciously or through evolving awareness, collectively withdraws its psychic investment. This serves as a potent and ultimately deeply empowering reminder for us all. No psychic structure, regardless of how seemingly entrenched, historically powerful, or culturally dominant it may appear, is truly eternal or immutable. Consciousness itself, in its inherent, boundless, sovereign freedom, ultimately holds the profound power to unmake what it has, through either focused, deliberate intent or passive, unthinking acquiescence, collectively made. The choice to consciously engage with, to critically reevaluate, or to deliberately disengage from any given egregor remains a fundamental, inalienable human capacity, a testament to our potential for self-liberation and the continuous evolution of our shared reality. This is the hidden promise within the challenge. So, we walk, often unknowingly, through a world. So, we walk, often unknowingly, through a world unseen, yet palpably teeming with these invisible entities, these powerful currents of collective will that ebb and flow around us like vast psychic tides. From the grand sweeping movements that define human history and meticulously shape our cultural epics, down to the subtle, often entirely unspoken energetic dynamics that permeate our families, our workplaces, and even our closest, most intimate relationships. Their pervasive influence is intricately, deeply woven through the very tapestry of all human experience. The ultimate challenge then, and indeed, the profound, life-altering opportunity that this often hidden knowledge inherently presents, is to begin to perceive these egregores for what they truly are. It is to endeavor to understand their complex nature, their subtle yet formidable power, their diverse origins, and their often clandestine methods of influence. And then, armed with this awakened awareness and fortified by conscious, critical discernment, it is to choose our dance. It is to choose our energetic allegiances with wisdom, and to choose, with courage, what subtle or overt forces we will consciously choose to feed with our own precious, irreplaceable life force, our divine spark. This deep knowledge of egregores, this unveiling of their existence and mechanics, is therefore not intended as a descent into a state of helpless paranoia, nor is it a call to retreat in fear from these often unseen forces that undeniably permeate our collective human existence. Far from it. Rather, it is presented as a clear, clarion invitation, perhaps even a form of esoteric initiation for those with ears to hear, into a deeper, more profoundly nuanced layer of conscious awareness. And ultimately, it is a resounding call to authentic, individual, and collective empowerment. It is yet another significant, vital layer of the veil lifted from our everyday perception of reality. To begin to truly recognize these subtle, yet often immensely powerful, group minds actively at play in our world, is to take the first, most crucial step towards reclaiming your own inherent psychic sovereignty. It signifies the start of understanding the intricate, often entirely invisible, architecture that not only sculpts societal narratives and deeply ingrained cultural norms, but also, potentially, subtly influences your own innermost thoughts, your most cherished beliefs, and your most reactive emotional responses. The previously unseen currents gradually become seen. The once unfelt unconscious pressures become consciously recognized and thus manageable. For in every single moment of our waking lives, with every thought we truly choose to entertain and energize, with every powerful emotion we consciously decide to amplify, to express, or perhaps to transmute, and with every group, ideal, or cause to which we consciously choose to lend our precious, irreplaceable, energetic signature, we are profoundly, actively participating. We are constantly, dynamically shaping this vast, interconnected psychic landscape that we all inhabit. We then move, by degree, from the common state of being unconscious, almost somnambulistic cells within these sprawling collective beings, simply and reflexively reinforcing their existing patterns and agendas, towards becoming truly conscious, discerning navigators, perhaps even deliberate, ethical co-creators of a different, more enlightened order. We can then choose, with an awakened clarity born of self-awareness, precisely where to place our most creative focus. We can choose where to wisely invest our individual spark of the divine, that sacred, unquenchable fire that burns within each of us. The ultimate choice, as it so often does in these hidden, esoteric worlds unveiled by ancient wisdom, returns with undeniable clarity and profound, unavoidable responsibility to the individual, to you. The true power, you see, is not just out there, an external force to be endlessly feared or blindly worshipped. It resonates most deeply, most authentically, within your own awakened, sovereign, and discerning consciousness. So, look around you now, and within you, with these newly opened eyes of understanding. Listen more deeply and more attentively than ever before, not merely with your physical ears to the cacophony of the world, but with the profound, often silent stillness of your sharpened intuition, your inner compass. Strive to feel the subtle currents, the psychic tides that move with such power through your communities, your nations, indeed, your entire interconnected world. What collective minds, what specific egregores are you currently a part of, whether knowingly or unknowingly? What unseen energies are you, perhaps unwittingly, actively contributing to with your daily patterns of attention? Your most focused and cherished beliefs, your most significant emotional investments, and perhaps the most vital, most pressing question of all for these transformative times: what new, conscious, constructive, and truly empowering egregores are now patiently waiting to be birthed into existence, or to be significantly strengthened and amplified through your own awakened awareness, your clarified vision, and your intentional, focused, and heart-centered creative action. The vast and intricate tapestry of our shared reality is ever weaving, and believe this with all your being. Your individual thread, your unique contribution truly, profoundly matters. Thank you for joining us on Veil of the Unknown for this deep dive into the often hidden, yet profoundly influential, world of egregores. If this exploration has sparked new insights, raised pressing questions, or even sent a shiver of recognition through your very core, please share your thoughts and personal experiences in the comments below. What are your encounters with collective energy, with group minds, or with these powerful, unseen influences? We'd love to hear your unique perspectives and foster a deeper collective understanding. Subscribe for more journeys into the esoteric, the ancient, and the unexplained. Until next time, stay profoundly aware, question everything with unyielding courage, and always, always choose your currents wisely.